at Empower Healthcare. Thank you so much for joining us today, and also thank you for being so accommodating with us needing to change the session. Today we will be discussing healthy eating, barriers to meeting nutrient requirements for our clients, how to establish if a client may benefit from a dietitian assessment, and also what do we actually do as dietitians when we go out and see clients. So we'll also go through some questions at the end. If we don't get through everyone's questions, I'll also leave my contact details at the end so you can email me directly if there's anything you don't feel like sharing in this session. So, healthy eating. We all know that healthy eating is important, and following a healthy, balanced diet is the key to developing and maintaining a state of good health. By following a healthy diet and maintaining a healthy lifestyle, clients can reduce their risk of developing chronic health conditions such as cardiovascular disease, stroke, hypertension, diabetes, and even some cancers. The best diet is one that includes plenty of nuts, seeds, fresh fruits, vegetables, whole grains, unsaturated fats, low-fat dairy or dairy alternatives, and also lean proteins. Although having a regular nutritious foods and diet, it is important that there are also some health conditions that can get in the way of clients meeting their nutrient requirements. If a client has a reduced appetite, we often see a reduction in their oral intake. And with that, a loss of weight and a risk of malnutrition is common. A decrease in appetite can often be the result of changes to taste and smell, not having a routine around meal times, and also clients only having meals on their own, and therefore that social aspect around eating is no longer there to encourage them to have those regular meals. I have one client who didn't have much of an appetite, and to develop his routine around having meals, we actually set a timer on his phone to remind him to prepare a meal for himself, and to make that time enjoyable, encouraged him to sit in the common area in his shared accommodation with his carers to enjoy that time together and mealtime together. As medications have dulled his taste buds, we also looked at stimulating his taste senses by increasing herbs and spices in his foods, just to give that enjoyment back to his meal times. Poor dental health can deter clients from eating things like nuts, seeds, whole grains, fruits, and even some meats. So having a poor fitting dentures when nuts and seeds can get underneath and can be very frustrating for clients. And inevitably, this leads to clients reducing their oral intake, and that can contribute to weight loss. Some ways to get around this is for clients to have nutrient-dense foods or snacks, so they're not having big portions of foods. And this means that they can meet their energy requirements in smaller amounts and meeting their body's needs. And offering softer foods as well, so slow cooked meats, yogurts, and even providing supplements can support the clients to maintain their weight. With one home care client who was being assisted with her eating, all it took was for support workers to just slow down during her meal times, allowing her time to slowly try and chew through foods, and also just being mindful of swallowing difficulties. Older adults in particular can reduce their sense of can have reduced sense of taste, and with that they don't drink enough fluids and can become dehydrated. And this can lead to confusion and even in some cases, hospitalization. Now, that's obviously something we do want to avoid. Other signs of dehydration include having a look at a client and seeing if they do have dry lips and sunken eyes, or increased body temperature, a decreased blood pressure, constipation, decreases urine output, and nausea. One way I've worked with clients to increase their fluid intake is with one of my NDIS clients. She had a stroke, and to encourage her to drink fluids, we encouraged her to go buy herself a bottle that she really liked, and then setting a timer on her phone to remind her every hour to have a sip of water. And even adding in things like drink infusers can just stimulate that interest in having that refreshing drink every hour. Issues in gastrointestinal tract can lead, sorry. Am I on the right slide? Yeah, I'm good. Issues in the gastrointestinal tract can include having celiac disease, IBS, IBD, UC, Crohn's disease, diverticulitis, constipation, and diarrhea. That's a lot of things, but these conditions can often be very debilitating for some, contributing to feelings of anxiety around food and around their gut function. I had one home care client who was very fixated on his bowel motions and used to get very anxious around having to have a bowel motion every morning, that he would often overdo his intake of bran fibers, prunes, coloxal, and movicol. So some days he would eat 20 prunes and have diarrhea, and other days he would eat 3 bowls of all bran and end up worsening his constipation. So to make matters worse, he also didn't drink a lot of fluids. For women, it is important that we aim for 25 grams of fiber throughout the day. And for men, that's 30 grams of fiber. For this gentleman, I developed a meal plan to evenly distribute his fiber throughout the day and encourage him to increase his fluid intake, and discussed with his GP as well to reduce the laxatives that were being prescribed to him. We were able to help this client develop a regular bowel habit, all through diet and only having laxatives as his emergencies PRN for those rare occasions where bowels were just a little bit sluggish. So kidney function does reduce over time, and with the ability of the kidneys to flush out, that also reduces. And this can lead to edema, particularly in the legs for many clients. And so that can also be very debilitating, reducing mobility. For one of my home care clients, having this excess fluid in her ankles has reduced her want to move, and so she's mainly staying in her recliner chair most of the day and also into the evenings. Moving around is very painful, and therefore she has stopped cooking her own foods, and her oral intake has significantly reduced. So I've worked with her to change the supplements that she was having, to reduce the amount of protein that she was getting, and therefore reducing the strain that was being placed on her kidneys, and developing that routine around meal times, so that she also does have diabetes, so improving her management of her blood glucose control, and therefore reducing the further damage that irregular glucose control can have on the kidneys. So all of that aiming to slow the progress of her kidney disease. For those who are aging and even clients who are on immunosuppressants, it is important to meet energy and protein requirements. So have a diet that contains a variety of vitamins and minerals to support their health. If a client is regularly unwell or has poor wound healing, these are warning signs that a client may be deficient in some of the key vitamins or minerals. With clients who are regularly unwell, it is very common to see a reduced appetite, oral intake, and then with that, weight loss. As the client recovers from their illness, they often don't recover from that weight loss that they've experienced. And so they might recover from the illness and be well, but then when they become unwell again, get further weight loss. And so you get this slow spiral happening of weight loss that can occur and lead into malnutrition. So short-term use of supplements may be helpful for clients to regain their weight faster post-illness to return to their pre-illness weight. Clients who have difficulty breathing often will unintentionally reduce their oral intake. So the task of eating and needing to breathe at the same time can be really challenging and tiring. So for clients with COPD, we noted down, one of my clients, we noted down what foods were being skipped because it was just too difficult for him to consume that food and breathing at the same time. So we then established which nutrients he was missing out on, and then looked at supplements that could address that nutrient need and assist him in meeting those nutrient requirements. So these clients often find drinking supplements and much easier than the task of eating a full meal. So meeting nutrient requirements through liquid is so much easier. Muscle mass is lost through reduced physical activity. If a client has reduced mobility due to injury, using a wheelchair, or muscle loss through aging, this is a cue for a physio and dietitian to work together to encourage the build-up of muscle and establish the client's specific nutrient needs. For one of my clients who uses a wheelchair, one of our physios and I worked together to develop a health routine for this client. So as she was not very physically active, she experienced loss of lean muscle mass, and with this, a reduced metabolism. Gradually, the weight increased, and gaining excess weight further contributed to her reduced mobility and restriction in movement. With our physio supporting our client to increase her muscle mass and assisting our client that way, and her support workers also supporting them with knowledge around healthy eating and how they could encourage her to make healthy food choices. Our client has halted at the moment her weight gain and is now working towards a weight loss, with her main motivating factor being that she doesn't want to purchase a larger wheelchair. Maintaining a good vitamin D level can be challenging for those clients who are not very mobile and are not inclined to go outdoors and get sun exposure. As we age, our bodies also need more calcium to maintain bone density. And for clients who already have a poor oral intake, this can be very challenging. Inactivity, low vitamin D, and a poor intake of calcium can all contribute to developing osteoporosis, which is, in a severe form, can be limiting to a client's ability to move, shop, prepare their foods, and live normally. These clients tend to also eat and they eat less foods and do not meet their nutrient requirements. So these clients are at an increased risk of fractures as well, which with one of my clients recently with a severe osteoporosis, she had a fall and sustained a fractured knob. She was in a lot of pain and her motivation around eating just wasn't there. So she refused a lot of her meals, and with assisting her to meet her energy requirements, we looked at supplements that she could have and sip on throughout the day, which was a lot more appealing to her than seeing a full meal in front of her. So unfortunately, she was refusing. She was referred to me after having already lost quite a bit of weight. So it's always best to get to see a client early when you first notice signs that they may be losing weight, to get in before that weight loss actually sets in. By working together with the medical team to manage this client's pain levels, we were able to help her reduce her pain and then improve her appetite as well. And although all weight is not yet recovered, she is having very small, frequent portions of high energy, high protein meals as well, just to help her along with her supplements. Depression can reduce appetite for some clients and increase appetite for others. When working with a client who does have depression, I always ensure that they are also being supported by a psychologist. I just feel that that is something that's really important for those clients. So depression can lead to a continual decline in poor appetite. And if left untreated, poor oral intake can contribute to further decline in mental health with confusion, increased isolation. And so it is very important that depression is managed with the support from a multidisciplinary team. There are also some health conditions that can contribute to a person needing more nutrients in their diet. So conditions like Alzheimer's, cancer, or Parkinson's disease, just to name a few, these increase the body's requirements for nutrients. So these conditions burn through the energy and protein at a higher rate than for clients who don't have these conditions. So it's important to keep a record of regular weights if someone does have these conditions and monitor their oral intake. These clients would benefit from following a high energy, high protein diet, and often as the condition progresses, supplements may be needed to slow the rate of muscle loss and weight loss. Another example of a client whose body burns through energy is a client with, one of my clients has autism, cerebral palsy, and also an intellectual disability. And with this client, he paces around the house constantly, has a a flick of the wrist. So he is constantly moving, and with that, he's constantly burning through his body's nutrient requirements. And I often say that it's like for these clients, they're doing a marathon every day. So their nutrient requirements are extremely high. So because this client is taking 3 supplements a day, as well as following a high energy, high protein diet, he is experiencing that taste fatigue. So we're constantly needing to rotate through different supplements to keep his food intake interesting and keep helping him to meet his energy and protein requirements. As well as health factors, there are also physical barriers to clients meeting nutrient requirements. And this is often where support workers can really make a difference and support clients to overcome these physical barriers to health. So things like mobility. If someone has reduced mobility to be able to access stores and access health facilities, they're not able to get that support that they need, or even physical ability to prepare healthy, nutritious foods for themselves at home. So support workers coming in and assisting with that activity just to make sure that clients are meeting their nutrient requirements can really help. And then also physically being able to have their meal. So someone, say, who has Parkinson's, has the shakes, may not be able to feed themselves very easily. And so getting that support worker in to support them very slowly, working through their meal and encouraging them with their oral intake to meet their nutrient needs. So some of the indicators to note when, as case managers, you're going out and seeing your clients, to know whether or not a dietitian may be beneficial to your client is, what do they have in their fridge? Do they have foods around the house? Do they have snacks next to their bed? Have they discussed with you what they are having to eat? What kind of foods are in the fridge? Is it just biscuits, or are they actually whole meals there for them? Also, looking at their general appearance, are they feeling fatigued? One of the big things that I have a look at is there signs of muscle wasting? So often the temples is a good one to note, because if there is sunken temples, that's usually a sign that there's been rapid weight loss. Does someone have fluid retention? They may need a review for kidney function, and they may have reduced mobility. Constipation or other gut issues, are there anything there? We can have a look at how to address those through diet first before getting into those invasive medications. Neurological health conditions often increase the body's need for energy and protein. So that's one of those conditions where the body just burns through energy. So looking at some options there for clients. If someone is a fussy eater, we do have a few of those clients, and looking at how to meet their nutrient requirements in a way that is appealing to them. So if they don't like particular textures or particular foods, can we blend it up into a sauce for them? Looking at different ways to make help them meet their requirements. Has someone gone through a significant life event? Have they lost a loved one? Can always change our normal habits and routines. So eating also becomes something that gets put on the back burner. So helping there. Does someone have stress or anxiety or depression? And so one of those things that we spoke about earlier. So what do we do as dietitians when we go in and we see clients? So first, a lot of case managers do send us a reason for referral, and thank you for that. But we do also double check that, because sometimes our priorities for a client may be very different to their health priority for themselves. So it's good to establish what they feel their health priority is. And then together with what we've been given as a reason for referral from case managers, we can address both reasons during our session. We also look at an overall medical history. Are there any other health factors that we need to take into account when we're doing our nutrition education and our sessions? Anthro, we have a look mainly at weight, weight and height. We look at BMI. Is the person within a healthy weight range, and how can we support them with that? Biochem is mainly important for those clients who have nutrient deficiencies, clients who have poor kidney function, and also if someone has diabetes. We have a look at what their blood glucose control is with kidneys, what is their level of kidney function, so that we can tailor nutrition advice specific to the stage of kidney function where they are. And nutrient deficiencies, how can we address that through diet, encouraging them to increase that nutrient. Clinical factors, the main things that we assess is how is your swallow? Of course, speech pathologists are the experts in that, but we just check what texture and thickness of fluids they are on. How is your appetite? How are bowels going? And also how's your chewing? So are you managing to get through your foods? And then in the diet section, we have a look at what the general oral intake is for a client. So I often say, if you think about a typical day for you, what is the first thing that you have to eat or drink in the morning? And then we run through that so that I can establish how much that client is able to eat, what nutrients they are getting in. And then if supplement is needed, we look at a top-up approach. So really encouraging oral intake from foods, and then just look at the difference that they can get from the supplements. So the next step is that after the initial nutrition assessment, we write up a report, give those to case managers, and then write a bit of a plan of what we recommend going forward. Personalised meal plans is another service that we provide to clients. So developing a meal routine, recipes, a meal plan that appeals to the specific client, address their health concerns and their needs. And then also cooking sessions. So assisting in NDIS services, helping with that capacity building those skills around cooking and preparing meals for themselves, or even going in. I've got one client where the support workers are assisting a client in preparing her meals, but they've got me coming in just to assess the healthiness of that meal and whether or not that's going to meet the client's requirements. So again, some of the services that we do, we've got that nutrition assessment. We also do screen for malnutrition, and we do make comments in our final reports on the level of malnutrition that a client may be experiencing. In RAC facilities, we've got a screening tool that we do use to assess clients. Nutrition education and training. So delivering nutrition education to our client during that initial assessment and also in review assessment. We also go out and do training with support workers. So how can they best assist their client to make healthy food choices? And then also in RAC facilities, so going in and training food service staff around portions, textures, thicknesses of drinks and supplements. We do the personal nutrition meal plans, always a diet first approach. So first fortifying foods and then encouraging supplements as a last alternative. Doing oral nutrition supplement reviews and making sure that supplements are still the best choice, looking at what the best options are for clients. So if the energy and protein requirements have increased, well, is that that supplement still meeting their needs? So we have a look at that and constantly review those. Weight management reviews, so have a look regularly at how weight is tracking, so both in malnutrition and overnutrition, how we can support those clients, and menu planning and nutrition analysis. So those are mainly in the RAC setting, where we can actually look at what a menu is providing, what nutrients is that menu providing, where is there a gap that we can address by adding in extra snacks or just tweaking their recipes to meet resident requirements. So if you do have questions that you don't want to share here, please feel free to get in touch and let me know. The other team has scribbled down some questions. And we'll have a look at those. We are sort of running a little bit tight on time. So I want to thank you all so much for joining us today. I hope you found this informative for you, and please don't hesitate to let me know if you have further questions. Thank you.
Thank you for attending today. We really appreciate you taking the time to come on board, especially after the unfortunate rescheduling. Poor Shirley was sick, but we do appreciate your flexibility and attending today. Like Shirley said, if you want to, you could pop a quick question into the chat box. We do ask that you go to the bottom of your screen and select the poll section to answer 3 quick questions, just to let us know what you thought about Shirley, the topic, and our seminar series. And we welcome any questions right now for 1 or 2 minutes. Otherwise, we'll let you get back to the rest of today. We hope you have an enjoyable day, and we thank you again. So we'll wait just 1 or 2 minutes. If we don't see anything, then we'll sign off, and we hope to see you at our next webinar, which is coming up in a few weeks' time, and addressing physio, how we can support independence through physios at home. There doesn't seem to be any questions coming through, which is not a problem. As Shirley mentioned, if you'd like to speak direct to her about one of your client's specific situations or query around the service type that you're particularly interested in, her contact details are on the page, and then we encourage you to make contact. We are now going to close off, and we thank you very, very much again today for coming. Thank you.